So sustainability is a concept or a term which is thrown around by everyone and anyone. Okay, but very few people actually think or go deeper into the meaning of sustainability. I see a few ESS students here who might be smiling in their mind, and I would like them to chip in or to complement whatever I say here or whatever I miss out. I have a few slides for this class. I'm just going to share the screen, and then we can proceed. Can the host please enable my screen sharing?
Sure, I'll do that. Okay, I just figured it out that I'm also not the host.
Maybe Stepanka is the host.
No, I'm the host, but I need to claim my rights.
Yes. Were you able to share?
Just a second. Yes, here you go.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm literally going by the wording which Stepanka wrote to me in the email. Ashwin, can you tell us about sustainability and its connection to economic, socio-political, and environmental development? Don't give us too much theory on sustainability, but we want, how sustainability as a concept interacts with society, with the economy, and with politics. So a few basics I would like to put on the table. This Venn diagram over here basically explains how the world works. Okay, so what they're saying is the big green circle is the natural capital of planet Earth. Okay, and the built capital and the human capital are embedded in society, which is the blue circle. And the social capital, built capital, and human capital are a subset or are embedded in the natural capital, or what we call or biosphere. Okay, and then all these four circles, the social, the built capital, the human capital, and the natural capital, interact with each other to create human well-being. I'm assuming that the final objective of everything that we do in life or everything that governments do for their citizens is to ensure human well-being. That is an assumption I'm making. So this is how structure, this is a very simplistic structure of how the world functions. And there is a little white square over there which says ecosystem services. Okay, if I remove that white square of ecosystem services, none of this would function. Everything would collapse. So then let's take a look at what are these ecosystem services. So the ecosystem is a real entity, okay, and the services the ecosystem provides us they are also real, although we may not always notice them or acknowledge them or give them a dollar value. Okay, so things like the nutrition cycle, the carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, the formation of soil, production of biomass, all these are like supporting services. There are provisioning services like the production of food or fresh water, wood, timber, fuel. All these are provisioning. And mind you, we get all of these from nature. Hmm? Your petroleum, you may purchase it from Shell or ExxonMobil or Hindustan Petroleum, but it comes from nature. Let us not forget that. Then there is a very important and often ignored service that is provided, which is called the regulating services. So regulation of climate and moderate temperatures, flood regulation, disease regulation, purification of water and wastewater. All these are essential services, and if they collapse, humans will not be able to survive on Earth. Then the fourth and the last one is more of a kind of a I would say tangible one, less tangible one, but we also get a lot of aesthetic value from nature, spiritual value, educational value, and recreational value. And all these have immense importance for human well-being and progress. So if you remove all these things, life will become very dry. We will not enjoy life if you remove these services. Then a fourth concept: every ecosystem, whether it is a city, whether it is the MUWCI campus, whether it is the MUWCI Valley, or whether it is the Western Ghats, has an intrinsic carrying capacity. What does that mean? It is the capacity of that ecosystem to provide ecosystem services such as land, water, energy, oxygen, and food in order to support a given population and to absorb its wastes. Look at the wording. It is providing oxygen, water, energy, and food, but it also needs the ability to absorb the wastes. Okay, that is an important part of the definition of carrying capacity. And I'll tell you why I'm talking about absorbing wastes. And then finally, the concept of sustainability, okay, is simply put the ability of human society to coexist with the biosphere. Now, this is a very, I would say, philosophical and cryptic definition. We will try to kind of split it and get to the root of it. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's move on. So what is the definition of sustainability? Okay, so different people or different fields will define sustainability in different ways. So the very basic definition is that sustainability is the ability to sustain or endure. Okay. A sociologist who is concerned about the well-being of human society would probably define it as improving the quality of human life while living within the carrying capacity of supporting ecosystems. So here they are concerned about the quality of life, but keeping in mind the carrying capacity of the ecosystems. An ecologist is less concerned with the human quality of life. An ecologist would look at the entire spectrum of life on Earth. And an ecologist would say that sustainability is the ability of biological systems to remain diverse and productive over time. So here, two keywords are important: diverse and productive. If there is no diversity, there is no resilience, and there is no productivity. Assuming that the ultimate objective of every creature living on Earth is reproduction and survival. Okay. So the ecologists always look at things from the perspective of reproduction and survival. And an economist, finally, would say that sustainability is the ability of a person, a family, a community, a business, or an entire nation to earn profit on a sustained basis without depleting its natural capital. So that last part, which I have scratched out, is actually the most important part. And this whole dilemma, debate, confusion about are we sustainable or not? Is it the Indian economy sustainable? Is Europe sustainable? The whole problem emerges from this last part of the sentence, that can we be sustainable without depleting the natural capital? Okay, and no one seems to take this last part of the sentence seriously, whether it is European countries or North America or India for that matter. And that is the politics part of this whole sustainability concept. Now, sustainability is just a term, but sustainable development is actually an action. Okay. And to give you a quick history, the word sustainable development was first used in 1987 at a UN conference, which was called the Conference on Economy, Environment and Development. Okay, the World Conference on Environment and Development, UNWCED, for the first time mentioned the word sustainable development. And at that time, Gro Harlem Brundtland, who was the then Prime Minister of Norway, she was the chairperson of this committee. And they came up with one of the most landmark kind of international reports on sustainable development, which was called Our Common Future. And how did this report define sustainable development? It said, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Okay. So we are saying we should be able to meet our needs in this life, and we should not compromise the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. Okay. So it was a great definition. For those times, they were really thinking ahead. But there was a massive problem with the wording of this definition. The word needs was not defined. What do you mean by needs? My needs could be a Ferrari or, air conditioner in every room. Do those things qualify as needs? Or are needs something different? So this was a very generic definition, which was later on criticized and kind of not accepted by a lot of economists and sociologists. Nevertheless, it is an important beginning for sustainable development. Later on, 20 years after the Rio conference, there was another conference called Rio Plus 20. And this conference really put down in black and white the most comprehensive definition which I have come across about sustainable development. And it says, sustainable development is limiting the harvest of natural resources for producing goods and services to a rate that allows their natural annual regeneration, wherein the long-term harvest and pollution rates do not exceed our ecological carrying capacity. So this is a really comprehensive definition, and I know I'm going too fast, but I'm going to share these slides with Monica, and you're welcome to read it later on. But this does not leave out anything. It is taking care of all loose ends. Okay, and this definition, 169 countries agreed to this definition of sustainable development in 2012. So I'm just going to ask a question now to this class. Can you tell me what are the main pillars of sustainable development? Anyone? if you were, let's say you graduate from MUWCI and you get a degree from university, and you are hired by the United Nations, um, let's say UNDP, United Nations Development Program, okay, and you are sent to, let's say, a small country in Latin America, and you are leading the Sustainable Development Program there. There are various proposals which have been put on your table, and you have to choose the proposal which is most sensible in terms of sustainable development. What are the criteria that you would apply to select the most appropriate proposal?
In the chat, Tushna is writing economic.
Okay. Yes, that's one criteria.
The impact on the society?
Yes, so social. So economic, social. Which other criterion would you apply?
Come on, guys. Stepanka talked about those 3 pillars.
We know it. They should. Yes, Vedangi.
Vedangi, we couldn't hear. Speak again.
Environmental.
Correct. So economic, social, and environmental aspects are the 3 main pillars of sustainability. And today I'm going to add one more, which is its technical feasibility. So, wait, I have to. Yeah, okay. So for any concept or project or idea to be successful within sustainable development, it needs to be technically feasible, socially acceptable, economically viable, and environmentally sustainable. So this technical feasibility pillar I have added on my own. And in fact, for this class, I have added one more pillar. Can you guess which that is?
As per our name, politics.
Exactly. So basically, the 5th pillar is it has to be politically convenient or politically tenable. Often, perfectly good science or perfectly good inventions do not see the light of day because they are politically inconvenient. Okay. So finally, politics is the great enabler for sustainable development. And just a concept being merely economically viable, the politicians may not implement it because it also has to be socially acceptable and it has to be technically feasible and politically convenient. Only if you can tick all 5 boxes, then there is a chance that your idea will succeed. Okay. All right. Now, sustainable development actually occurs at 3 different levels. The first level is the local level. So local methods are evolved to be more appropriate for the immediate local population or culture. They are often people driven and bottom up. So the ideas come from the people and then the local body tries to implement it. Okay. Now, what we are saying is the ideas can be local, but don't lose sight of the bigger picture, the global picture. And I've taken the example of segregation of dry waste and wet waste at the household level. Is an example of a local sustainability initiative, a local campaign on recycling of plastic bags. Then you have the national level, where things are driven by national priorities rather than local needs. Okay. Often nations also have to respond to international agreements or obligations. Okay. And lastly, and most importantly, they are within the ambit of the national budget and political stance. Okay, each party has a political stance, and their policies are always most, as much as possible, consistent with their political stance. So, for example, a nationwide ban on the production and sale of low-density polyethylene or plastic, like it's a policy, it's a law. That is an example of a national level action in sustainable development. And then finally, you have the global approach, which recognizes that ecosystems are affected by basically global dynamics, and understanding that local actions can impact others beyond national boundaries is an important aspect of global negotiations. Global approach is always, or more often than not, science driven, and it is a top down approach. And it may often miss out the sensitivity to cultural and social aspects. Okay, and as an example, I've given international climate agreements, which include concepts like decarbonization or carbon capture or ecosystem restoration, creating sustainable cities. These are at an international level. So sustainable development operates at the local, national, and global levels. Finally, Monica, please tell me when I need to stop. Okay. I have maybe 2 more slides and I'm done.
Sure.
Do we have? Okay.
Yeah.
So, in the first slide, I was showing you those 4 circles where the biggest circle was the natural capital. Okay. So what do we mean by natural capital? Okay. So there is 2 types of natural capital. One is renewable and one is non-renewable. Examples of non-renewable natural capital are minerals, all metals, including iron, copper, everything that we extract from the earth. It is the soil and land for growing our food, building our cities. It includes the fossil fuels, which are non-renewable, such as coal, diesel, petrol, natural gas. And it is the diversity of species. Diversity is a non-renewable concept. Once a species is extinct, it is gone forever. You cannot bring it back. Unless you are Steven Spielberg and you can revive dinosaurs. Okay. And renewable natural capital includes the materials that are produced every year by the ecosystem, like forests, grasslands, timber, water, air, solar energy, humus. Humus is the biologically fertile component of soil. And then animals, birds, fish, everything else. Just a note that the poor countries, the less economically developed countries, depend on natural capital for almost 50% of their wealth and basic needs. This is in a large contrast with developed countries, whose economies are often based on technology and services and not necessarily natural goods. Okay. And just as an example, I'm saying that more than 50% of rural households in India depend entirely on biomass, which is wood and crop residue and dung, for cooking and heating water. So these are also very interesting things where India is leading the world in solar energy installation, but more than 50% of its rural population still depends on wood for cooking and heating water. Okay, I think we covered ecosystem services. Okay, this is my last slide, and we'll probably open for some questions. So in 2001, something interesting happened on the world stage. Mr. Kofi Annan was the UN Secretary General at that time, and he commissioned one of the most comprehensive and detailed assessment of the Earth's, of the planet's ecosystem services, so that we could put a dollar value to the ecosystems. And the assumption was, if we put a dollar value to the ecosystem services, then we are more likely to protect them and conserve them. That was Kofi Annan's logic. And it was a landmark study where more than 1,300 scientists from all over the world collaborated to create this data. And they brought out this Millennium Ecosystem Assessment. This MEA has a website and you can download the entire report, but it's a massive report. But it's like a Bible of the world's ecosystem. Now, a scientist from Wageningen University has said that every year we lose $3 to $5 trillion of natural capital, which is roughly equivalent to what the world lost in the financial crisis of 2008-9. Okay. So every year we are losing this natural capital through unsustainable measures. Okay. Now the dollar value of all ecosystem services was actually calculated to be $145 trillion per year. That is how much the nature gives us every year. And the current dollar value of the global economy, the GNP, is not more than $70 trillion, which is like less than half. Okay. Interestingly, some governments have actually acknowledged that there is a value to protecting nature. There is a dollar value. And in 1996, the government in Costa Rica began paying landowners $42 per hectare per year just for preserving the forest. Okay. At that time, Costa Rica had the highest deforestation rates in the world. But today, Costa Rica has the lowest deforestation rates and is widely applauded for its landmark nature conservation. Okay. So that's all I had for you today. And there's a lot more to discuss in terms of, global politics, but I would leave that to Monica and all of you who are more savvy about global politics. My competence is limited to the environmental aspect. Any questions?
Any question? Veda, your voice is not audible, bacha.
Do you know how lots of countries are dependent on oil as income? How can they transition out of being oil dependent because of their entire economy is based?
Vedangi, your voice is not audible clearly.
Okay, I'll repeat it because maybe the laptop is. So some countries are oil dependent. How can they transition from this being only dependent on oil to other ways of gaining,
correct,
profiting?
So if you remember in the year 2000, I think you were too young that time, but I remember that people were freaking out at when the millennium was turning in the year 2000, and everybody thought that the oil is going to finish. The world is going to run out of oil. And did that happen? No. We went ahead and dug deeper and deeper. We started fracking the methane gas in the tar sands in North America. We started drilling more in the oceans, and peak oil never came. There is still plenty of oil to go around. Of course, it is the more unsustainable side. We are now extracting oil from the last remaining reservoirs on Earth. Now the question is, can countries whose entire economies depend on oil, can they transition to a non-fossil fuel scenario? Answer is, in theory, yes. In practice, you need a massive social and political will to make the transition. Technologies exist. For example, all the bulk transportation applications in future, they are estimating that these big heavy transport processes will run on hydrogen fuel, okay, hydrogen cells. And the smaller applications may run on a hybrid of solar or wind or even biomass energy, okay? So the solution to fossil fuels is not one particular technology. It is a bouquet of technologies, and each country will choose the different technologies and a mix of technologies based on their relative natural capital and advantages. Okay. So for example, in the latest Glasgow conference on climate change, the global community agreed that they will no longer use coal to generate electricity, because coal is a very big pollutant, carbon emitter, and a limited fossil fuel. But India and China said, hello, wait, we still need to use coal for another decade at least. Okay, so please don't drag us in this phasing out of coal business. So countries again take a politically convenient stance, often citing historical kind of baggage or historical burden. For example, the rationale behind this is India and China are saying, hey, Europe and North America have kind of gone through their entire economic growth curve and become prosperous because of coal and petroleum. So, and now you're telling us that we can't use coal? That's not fair. We will use it for another 10 years at least, and then we will see whether to stop it or not. So countries basically take these decisions based on a lot of criteria, and nobody wants to, disappoint or jeopardize their people or their economy. Yeah. Any other question?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So Ashwin, first of all, thank you very much for this beautiful presentation. Even I got to know a lot of things. Now, my question is, what do you think? What comes first? Is it growth or sustainability in terms of countries' development? For me, growth is equal to industrialization. So, what comes first?
Wow, that's that's
Is
a
it
difficult question.
egg or chick?
Yeah, but I'll try to answer that. I would say they go simultaneously. Growth without sustainability is not sustainable. And often, to enable sustainable technologies to be developed and deployed, you need money. For money, you need growth. So I think both these things are tied into each other. They are not mutually exclusive. That is my simplistic answer.
Yeah, I completely agree. Connected to this one, what would you say then about the Brazil's this policy of deforestation, what Bolsonaro is undertaking, and this is criticized by environmentalists of the world, right? Though capitalists of the world, they are not criticizing it right now because they feel that Brazil should march on development, and it's important that they go for the deforestation where the industries, MNCs, they can take place. So what's your say on that? I mean, are you okay with Bolsonaro's this policy?
A short answer, I'm definitely not okay. I do not like his policies. I had visited Brazil in 2001 as a student at University of Florida. We had a study tour in Brazil, and one only has to see it with their own eyes to understand what the Brazilian rainforest means. You don't get the full picture on the internet or in films. You have to go there and actually see it, the magnitude of the rainforest there, the Amazon, the size of that river, and how much ecosystem services are provided by that entire forest and the river. It's just mind-boggling. And we are just throwing it away for temporary financial gain. Okay, that's my sorrow. That is why I feel so sad that people are not thinking of 50, 60, 80 years in the future. They just want to somehow become rich and comfortable immediately, and if it means that we have to cut our forests for that, so be it. That is what makes me sad. Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
viewpoint in short.
Thank you. Any other question? Though I have many more questions, but all are connected to the development projects in different countries. It could be Nordic sustainable model. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to end this, Monica, with, it's good you pointed out, development projects in different countries. I would, request this, class, Glopo class, to just study one little case study. It was a movement led by an African female leader called Wangari Maathai. Okay, you, Monica, may know it. She had a very interesting take on development and aid. Okay, her, in short, I'm summarizing it for you. Basically, what she was saying is that rich countries give aid or propose development projects in poor countries, not to strengthen the development countries, but to further weaken them. Okay, and she was saying, don't throw food packets and rations and medicines from the air on our heads. Okay, they will save us once, they will save us twice. Please give us the time and space to rejuvenate our agriculture, our ecosystems, our forests, so that we are self-reliant. Unfortunately, a lot of the development aid is focused on increasing the dependency of poor countries on the developed countries, and not vice versa. So I would just like to leave you with that thought, and wish you the best for the rest of the semester.
Thank you.